With respect to Ferguson, keep in mind that there are two separate issues involved. The first is the specific case of Officer Wilson and Michael Brown. And that is typically a charge that would be brought and dealt with at the state level, the local level. The federal government has a role only if it can show that there was a significant miscarriage of the justice system and had clear evidence. Now, I'm not being overly technical, but basically, the federal jurisdiction here is to make sure that this wasn't just a completely wrong decision. They don't retry the whole thing all over again. They look to see whether or not at the state level due process and the investigation was conducted. And the standard for overturning that, or essentially coming in on top of the state decision, is very high. The finding that was made was that it was not unreasonable to determine that there was not sufficient evidence to charge Officer Wilson. Now, that was an objective, thorough, independent federal investigation. We may never know exactly what happened, but Officer Wilson, like anybody else who is charged with a crime, benefits from due process and a reasonable doubt standard. And if there is uncertainty about what happened, then you can't just charge him anyway just because what happened was tragic. And that was the decision that was made, and I have complete confidence and stand fully behind the decision that was made by the Justice Department on that issue. There is a second aspect to this, which is how does the Ferguson Police Department and the government of Ferguson, the municipality, treat its African American citizens when it comes to law enforcement. And there, the finding was very clear, and it's available for everybody to read. What we saw was that the Ferguson Police Department, in conjunction with the municipality, saw traffic stops, arrests, tickets as a revenue generator as opposed to serving the community. And that it systematically was biased against African Americans in that city who were stopped, harassed, mistreated, abused, called names, fined, and then it was structured so that they would get caught up in paying more and more fines that they couldn't afford to pay or were made difficult for them to pay, which raised the amount of additional money that they had to pay. And it was an oppressive and abusive situation. And that is also the conclusion that the Justice Department arrived at. The steps that now are to be taken is that the Justice Department has presented this evidence to the city of Ferguson, and the city